Tell me the first thing you booked. How'd you feel?
Oh, what, as an actor?
Yeah. What was it?
God, I mean, the first like proper thing was like this film, which I had like a fairly big role in.
Mm-hmm.
It's called A Wedding Most Strange, and it was like a comedy, meant to be kind of an indie comedy. And at the time, I'd got down to like the last two for a big tour with Northern Broadsides, who are an amazing theatre company, and they do mostly Shakespeare, but in like really great, like just really cool shows in brilliant theatres. And it would have been a 6-month tour, and it was to play Laertes, and they were looking for like an Indian Laertes. Funnily enough, my sister got seen for to play my sister in it. And anyway, I got down to the last two, and it was between me and this other guy, and he was more kind of Indian looking, even though I'm half Indian. I don't really necessarily look Indian. And my agent at the time was like, look, he's been offered this film.
Yeah.
Can you give us an answer, kind of thing?
Yeah.
And they went with the other guy, and who knows whether like he pressured them into it. I'd like to think that he pressured them into it.
Yeah.
And they went with the other person. I remember his name's Conrad. He's a great director and actor. Conrad Nelson, he was directing it. And we went to see the show, and it was so good, and he was so lovely, and he was like, it was just, it was a sort of snap decision. And I did the film, and I remember at the time being like, this is it.
Yeah, I've made it.
Film.
Yeah.
Quit my job at the gym. And then like 3 weeks later, I was out of work again. And I've not really made loads of money off of that film. And I was like, hardly any. And I was like, I need my job back at the gym. So yeah, that was funny. It was that feeling of like, oh, this is great. And then like, and that's the industry. Like it's, and the film was, meh. Whereas the tour would have been great.
Yeah.
But I had a great time. I met some really cool people. So yeah, that was kind of the first kind of proper thing I booked, I guess.
And do you think that you had this like massive peak of elation when you booked that? And then was it everything that you had anticipated it to be?
No.
I
had this like, it's such a buzz when you book something.
Yeah.
And like,
I can imagine.
Everything went out the way. Because like, the script was not right. It wasn't, it needed some work. But at the time I was like, this is amazing. This is great. And I got on well with the director, but yeah, I think my expectations far exceeded like the reality of what that was. And so it was a good like learning curve.
Yeah.
You get the excitement's great, but like reality is what does this really mean? It wasn't like a big studio thing, and even if it had been, like, you still have to be willing to know that sure, that's going, and then you're going to have a dip. Like exactly. A lot of my friends who've done some big stuff, they still get that same feeling, but the money's different.
It might cushion the blow a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's just part of the industry. It's that up and down that there's really no escape from it, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, you have to get like used to that. If you can't handle that, and a lot of people can't, and like the rejection's constant.
Yeah.
And so if that brings you down, and it will always at some point, if you genuinely can't handle that and just need like consistency, it's not, that industry's not going to be for you. And really only you can figure that out and like go and try it out, or have something that, you always have to have some kind of stability or something going on.
Some sort of income.
Yeah. It's a tricky one though, because I always thought like personal training was my thing.
Yeah.
But then you sort of identify with what you are, and I would never say I was a PT. I was like, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And but most of the time I was doing the other thing, right?
Yeah.
But then I wasn't putting much effort into the PT thing because I didn't want that to succeed. So you're sort of in between two. And I am someone who believes like, if you're going to do something, do it. And so if I'd gone into, maybe I would have spent more time working in film, whether that was like backstage more or kind of working in production. But, the PT stuff did bring me into doing the fight choreography because I was working within martial arts, and then I got asked to choreograph stuff for theatre. So it's sort of like linked in tenuously, but yeah.
Interesting. And do you think, just going back to your dad and when you were a kid being like, oh, I want to be an actor, and he'd be like, no, choose something sensible. Do you think that almost pushback that you got as a kid for what you wanted to do almost helped you in the future with all the no's that you would receive just being in the industry?
I don't know.
If he had been just completely supportive, would have been different?
I mean, it's really hard to say. I think because he was genuinely like, you're fucking shit. And I was like, And I remember I was very angry with him at the time generally. So I was just like, no, I'm going to show you. And I'll show everyone else. But I think what I lacked always was maybe something in the back of my head always going, you're a bit shit. And there are people that walk into that room that go, I'm fucking great.
Yeah.
And you need that.
You do.
Even if it doesn't even show in your performance.
Yeah.
It might, whatever it is. And I think I only realised that a few years ago. It was like, that confidence was like, no, I've got this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Of course, it sort of made me in some ways. But, you know.
Didn't define you completely.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, didn't define you.
No.